Hello and welcome back to our podcast. I'm your host, Brandon.
I'm your co-host, Taylor.
And this is
New Country, Same Us.
This production is brought to you by Soft Landing by Elsewhere Co., a company we created to help others to relocate abroad or start their new business venture. All right, Taylor, so let's go ahead and dive into our episode today. I wanted to kind of touch on some of the things that we went through, that we experienced when it came to making our decision to move abroad, the months up until the move abroad, the flight itself, and then our first 30 days. So why don't we dive into what helped us to make our decision to move abroad here?
Yeah, I think that there were a lot of factors that kind of went into it, but I think we both can agree that politics was a big factor and kind of everything that encompasses politics.
Yeah, so don't tune out just yet. I know you hear the word politics and you're like, oh, great, this is not for me, especially with the environment in America. But when we say politics, we truly mean the ins and outs of what makes your day-to-day life function as it does.
Yeah, like different things as far as policies that fund your schools, as far as safety for your children. And we were just seeing more and more that the current administration just wasn't aligning with that.
Yeah, and I think that, I've always been one to really delve into policy, really delve into all the different facets of the laws that are being written. And I know that, a lot of people don't look at it this way because most people only participate during presidential elections. Some people may go as far as midterm elections, but I don't think a lot of people realize that there's elections every year. And sometimes there's special elections in the middle of that. And so these are things that affect your day-to-day life. And
you really want to know the makeup of who's backing what these different policies are going into, as well as how it is going to affect your day-to-day life. I think a lot of people kind of rely on either a commercial to kind of tell them what's happening or just that little blurb in the actual voting time.
Yeah, and I think that, those blurbs can be helpful. It's a lot of times they'll give you a little bit of who's for it, who's against it. But like you said, being able to look at who's funding that proposition, who wrote the proposition, being able to understand what the full implications of those propositions are very important. There was that one proposition in California a few years back that it seemed simple enough that you needed to have a registered nurse at the dialysis clinics for it to open, but that actually failed when it came to a vote because they were able to spin it in a way that, this will close down a bunch of facilities.
Yeah, and that actually that was an interesting one because kind of in my background with pharmaceuticals, having a registered nurse, someone on site to be able to kind of double check that everything is running smoothly actually would have been better for people and would have helped the quality of life of the facilities. But because they were able to spin it in a way during the commercials and not a lot of people really looked into what the actual prop meant, then it didn't pass.
Yeah, and so with that, you see the quality of care suffer. And I'm sure it is continuing to suffer to this day because that prop has still failed. But I think that, kind of in the grand scope of the current administration, everything that they're putting into place really seems counterintuitive to any minority person or person of a lower socioeconomic status, right? I think too many people are positioning themselves in their mind with, red versus blue, conservative versus liberals. But if you really truly look at what's happening now in the United States and frankly globally, it's becoming more of the elite versus everybody else.
Yeah, and I think like you were saying, a lot of people are really just thinking that these different policies are not going to affect them. Like everything that was put into Project 2025 really is not going to touch them because, hey, I don't pay attention to politics. I pay my taxes. I'm good.
Right. And that's the thing that's crazy to me is that I think enough people think that politics doesn't touch their day-to-day lives. And it truly does. I mean, when it comes to gun safety and regulations, even though most people agree with common sense gun laws, it's not something that can get passed because people are afraid of losing their freedoms. All the while, during this current administrations, people are giving away their freedom to an authoritarian rule. And this was all laid out in Project 2025. But because I think that so many people think that, oh, well, Trump can't get that passed, or that's not legal, he won't do that, or there's the branches of checks and balances that can stop him. But I mean, as you've seen in the last 8 months, all of those have essentially failed. And he's able to break the law because he's doing so in the capacity of the president, which was a authorization given to him by the judicial department, right? So
Yeah, and we are seeing it more and more how if he's not getting what he wants, he firing the person in charge to then put in a supporter that will then give him what he wants.
and all the scare tactics that he's putting into place too, that, if he's not getting what he wants, you're likely to get jailed at this point. So, I mean, that sounds like a bit of a reach, but please really do pay attention. So let's we'll touch a little bit more on politics as we go through, but it's not going to be the majority of what we're talking about. We did have that as a largely contributing factor, however, to us moving. And so the next thing, kind of in the wheelhouse of politics, but not, it's tied to it, but it's not directly the same, is we also felt like we were losing the sense of community. Like we couldn't walk around our neighborhood without wondering, oh, who's for us and who's against us, and seeing the American flag being flown proudly in times that seemed perilous was a sign of, oh, that person is happy with what's happening right now.
Yeah, it was definitely a shock to feel so much about what's happening in the election and really just kind of seeing your community kind of being alienated. But also, it was so hard just to be able to hang out with people, just trying to coordinate schedules because everyone's working 60 hours a week.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that, and and not just the scheduling, but also losing friends and family to political rhetoric and making it where families are being fragmented over this administration. And then, like you said, with the friends and families that we had left, we're all working so hard, having to work so many hours a week, to mention traveling, where really, I mean, it was months, weeks in advance that we had to schedule. Like, spontaneity was gone, right? There was no, hey, what are you doing? Let's go hang out. It's like, hey, I have this weekend free. 2 weeks from now, are you free too? No? Okay, well, let's try. How about next month? Or, and
it just felt like more and more of like trying to coordinate with friends. It either became a thing where no one had time, or really everyone's just trying to like chase the next escape. Like the event had to be aesthetic enough. It had to really be worth their time. So that was just kind of weighing on us.
Yeah, I think that, being in America, you kind of fall prey to this hyper consumeristic society. I mean, at one point we had Amazon at our door literally every day.
I think they recognized our house at a certain point. Like we couldn't look at each other and be like, okay, was it you or was it me?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we left snacks and drinks at the door for them, because
We did.
we had to make sure that they were happy with us and our packages didn't get damaged. Lost. So anyway, it did feel like we had to facilitate having people over. We had to facilitate an aesthetic reason for people to go, and it was really, it just felt like more and more the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, right? And everything there on top of that was so expensive. Trying to throw a party that met, standards well enough for people to come would cost us at minimum $2,000 and maximum $8,000. And that's just for a party.
And then just hoping that people would actually show up.
Yeah, and people always canceled last minute. So anyway, that's that kind of leans into another reason why we left: the economic pressures that we're building. I mean, you had where your PG&E, for those who aren't on the West Coast,
Your gas and electric.
right. I mean, that was skyrocketing. I felt like month over month, you would see the filings in the paper, or, on the different, websites where they were requesting to raise rates every, 30, 60 days?
Yes. And just everything we were going through to try to lower the bill. We stopped running our AC during the heat of summer, which was not safe.
Yeah.
Just signed up for every savings program that we could, just for every month to seem like nothing was helping. And you tried to reach out and it's like, well, sorry, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah. I mean, really, we were doing everything. Like in the summer, we never ran we would run the AC, but we would always close all of our blinds. We'd try to put on the ceiling fans. We would do everything that we can to reduce the electricity. And it didn't help. The bill always went up and up and up. And then in the winter, we didn't run the heat at all. And it's still, we're like, what is this crazy bill,
And it just seemed like rent was continuing to go up.
Literally, we're paying a third of what we paid for our rent back home out here.
Yeah, for a beautiful space. We'll touch on cost of living out here a little later, but it's insane. Just with rent going up, Xavier's daycare was just ridiculous, literally another price of rent.
Yeah, I mean, the daycare in and of itself. And the thing is that at the time, it was worth it because it was peace of mind. But even that peace of mind became fleeting towards the end, because there was the incident at his daycare where there was somebody arrested on charges of possession of child pornography. And luckily, none of the kids from the daycare were involved. And we were reassured not only by the teachers and the principal at the school, but also the board manager
and the sheriff's department.
So, but that really shook us to our core.
Well, yeah, he's been at that daycare since he was 6 months old. So having them literally see him grow from 6 months all the way to 4
and wondering, was he safe during that time? Having to think about, was she ever his teacher? Was he ever alone with her? Did she ever have her phone around him? Terrifying thoughts that went through our head. And I mean, Xavier's safety was paramount to us, and I think that was one of the biggest contributors to why we decided to move. It was the idea of school shootings. He was becoming school age. And there's been so many times that I've been in an active lockdown and I'm terrified. And I think that we as Americans have normalized these things where, we're making it where kids should have Kevlar,
the bulletproof
backpacks, and their backpacks should be clear so that they could see to make sure there's no guns in there, and make sure that all the kids know how to barricade the door, and if somebody is shooting, how to pretend to be dead. These are crazy things that are normalized where it doesn't exist elsewhere.
It really doesn't. And that's the amount of school shootings is a big factor that we were thinking about for Xavier. But also, we can't look over the fact that he's a minority. We're a minority family. You're 6 foot tall. He's gonna be big.
Yeah.
So just putting him in school and then just being terrified that someone's gonna look at him the wrong way, that he has to keep his head down, and that if he leaves the house today, that we might not see him because someone perceives him as a threat because he's a little goofy.
Right. And that's true. And that's something, and not to mention having a Latino last name. Everything about what's happening with this administration is counterintuitive to a mixed race Latino family. And it just made the most sense for us to leave. And so with that being said, let's raise the vibrations a little bit and talk about the move itself, everything that we had to go through leading up to the move. I know we touched on last time about us having, 9 bags that we moved into, plus our storage unit.
Yes.
So being able to whittle that down, but first and foremost, we had to tell our family.
And I think that was a big factor that we didn't think it was going to be as emotional as it was, because the entire time we were talking to our family about moving or leaving, especially leading up to the election. And it just felt like a lot of people weren't taking us seriously. So when we finally did decide to pull the trigger and have that conversation and let them know, hey, we're leaving, and when we actually had a timeline.
Yeah, I mean, we told everybody, and half the people that we told actually took us seriously, and the other half didn't think we were serious or that we were going to move as quickly as we did. I mean, we gave ourselves 8 months and ended up moving in 5. It seemed like we were speed running it, but honestly, I think based on everything that we are seeing happening now, it was a smart decision, right? And so with that, I mean, it was definitely hard. And I think most of our friends and family understand why we did it, although they may not agree with it.
Yeah.
They can at least understand our reasoning. And I think that, we may have not, done it in a way that everybody was satisfied with. I know they would have liked a lot more input, but, at the end of the day, it was our decision to make.
And I think that was the final thing that we had to decide of what was best for our family. As much as we love everyone and we want to take everyone with us, and we kept trying to convince people to go with us. Our door's still open if you want to come.
And we can definitely help you do it, I promise. But yeah, you're saying there.
It might have not been the way that everyone initially wanted, but we had to do what was best for our family. And I will never apologize for that.
Yeah. I mean, me neither. And so with that, the next step was actually uprooting our lives, right? We made the decision to resign from our jobs because they weren't necessarily jobs you could take with you, but also the stress of the jobs themselves were building on us. I mean, we were both in sales roles and we were pretty good at what we did, but we needed a change of pace, and we needed to be able to get out and do what we needed to. So with that came also, getting rid of our cars, right? You had a company vehicle, so that was something that we had to time it right so that we still had
a car.
Yeah.
So we still had a car before we had to sell the other one. And there was also no way for us to move it to part-time and able to plan the move, get the documents we needed.
Right, exactly. So then, once we were able to kind of get that figured out, we put in our notices, and we helped, as much as we can before we left. Then we had an even tougher decision to make. We had to say,
we had 4 animals that realistically, because we had 2 cats and 2 dogs, and the breeds and age of the dogs, it wasn't a good idea to be able to take them. Yes. That was another heartfelt goodbye that we weren't really prepared for.
Yeah, that was one thing. It was like we had a pit bull lab mix that was, or she is, she's 13 years old. And so having that consideration to put her on a flight and try to get her into potentially a small apartment, it was the best decision to keep her back home with my sister, and in a happy, loving home where she could be taken care of and not have to undergo the stress of the travel. And then we had a bulldog that you already know that they have breathing problems. I mean, you could hear him coming from a mile away, just
he just this little meatball of a dog, but that we did not want to risk. You can't put that dog in a carrier.
Yeah, and talking to the vets, as well as other people who had a breed, it's very difficult on a short flight, let alone 15+ hour flight. And so we made the decision to rehome him as well with a family friend. So far, we do keep in touch with them, and we talk to our pets
They are thriving, so
They're doing so well.
We did make the right decision.
I mean, I'm happy with it. I miss them terribly. And, that's something that you have to consider when it comes to making that choice. But then, like we said earlier, also downsizing your lives. I mean, we went from, not only a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, but we had all these party supplies. We had, tents, and we had a storage unit that was already filled with, Halloween decorations, Christmas decorations.
That was having to go and because everything we've built up over the years, our decorations, I would say probably we've had since college.
Yeah, we started the collecting in college for sure.
Not needing to go back too far, but just seeing the stuff that we had that just built up over years that we actually had to sit down and decide, okay, can I take this now? A 60-foot Jack Skellington inflatable? Probably not.
60 foot.
I don't know how big it is.
It's more like 12 feet, but
that makes more sense.
But yeah, those things that are sentimental though too, that are heavy, that we decided to leave in a storage unit back home, that we want to bring. We just have to work out that timing, right? There's my great-grandmother's old record player. There's, baby clothes and family albums and other things that are valued treasures to us that, in the timing of things did not make sense for us to bring at the time, but we still have, waiting to be shipped out here for when we are ready to have that.
Because realistically, I don't think we can put a record player in a suitcase. They might have looked at us a little strange.
We should try next time.
In sections, we'll cut it up.
Maybe we could put some handlebars on tape and just put in our backpacks.
Double team it. I think we can do
it. But yeah, so I mean, that kind of leads us into the move itself, right? Coming through and going on to gathering the documents, right? Because that was the big thing that we wanted to make sure we had in order. There's a lot of bureaucracy when it comes to moving from nation to nation. And so you want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row, especially if you're applying for residency. There's always the option to bounce around from country to country if you don't have a lot of material possessions or you're not looking to stay in a single place, then there isn't that same need to gather all the necessary documents. Your passport is enough.
But yeah, for us, we specifically were looking for a path to fully relocate. We know that we always had the option to go back, but we wanted to make sure that wherever we were going to settle, we had everything that we needed and didn't have to go and call family and just be like, hey, can you please send me my birth certificate? That would have been a whole thing.
Yeah, and with a lot of these documents, you do need to get them in person if you haven't had them before, especially if you're going to get what's called an apostille, which that is essentially a international notarization of a document. It is internationally recognized. However, these apostilles do have a timeline that they're allowed to be used.
Depending on the country.
Yeah, depending on the country, which is the standard for most is 6 months. So you have to get that in person. You could get it mailed, but that is a lengthy process. So depending on how much time you have in your move, that's something you need to consider. And gathering other documents like your birth certificate, you want to get your marriage certificate. If you're divorced, a divorce certification, or anything that you may need to travel abroad, you're going to want to gather those documents preemptively. And we also highly suggest making digital copies as well. Now, those digital copies cannot be used officially, but it is a way to prove that you have those documents when they're not physically with you. Right. And if you scan a document, it'll actually show void or a watermark of sorts to show that that's not the original. So keep that in mind. But I would recommend always having a digital copy so that you can quickly access. But yeah, so we gathered our documents and then we made a plan, right, for our flight. So, and I mean, you had a big hand in that. So what did that look like for you?
So that was fine. It was finding the flight. We ultimately decided on flying out of LAX, and we had a layover in Poland, but also with this, it was a big move. We wanted to be comfortable. We have Xavi with us. So we actually looked at the level like right below first class, just so that way we were able to kind of have a little more space, be a little more comfortable.
Yeah, and so that was really a smart decision in our behalf, because for us, it was a 15-hour flight to Poland, and then it was another, what was it, an hour and a half flight from Poland to Tirana. And so we wanted to make sure that we were comfortable, and I'm glad we did it, because not only did we have the extra leg room, a whole row to ourselves, but they gave us 3 meals. And that's, I'd be lucky if I can get, a bag of peanuts on a shorter flight. And
honestly, like the flight was amazing. We had you had pillows, you had eye masks. The other thing that we did have to look at when booking the flights was converting the weight from pounds to kilograms, because that was another thing that we weren't making sure that we had the right suitcases for actually to get on the flight.
Yeah, we got one of those digital scale things that you hook around your suitcase, which, mind you, we didn't bring any suitcases. Well, we brought one suitcase, but all the rest of them were really industrial, not canvas, but those almost like those IKEA bags you get, that same material that you could lift. I mean, we had the limit of the weight per bag, and we didn't want to lose any of that weight to a suitcase.
Yes.
Which our friend Sarah gave us that idea. And so, shout out to you, Sarah.
Oh yeah, that was a big help. And that kind of went down with how meticulous we were planning and making sure that nothing kind of slipped through the cracks. We got the scale. We were shifting things around to make sure that everything was arranged perfectly. We also set up housing and taxis beforehand to make sure that when we landed, we were good and not kind of scrambling once we actually left the flight.
Yeah, and one thing that we also did was we booked a hotel at the same time that we arrived, so that because we already had an apartment secured and we already had where we could move in as soon as we got there, but we wanted to be able to kind of take our time to unpack and not have to live in the bags and the mess. We could have breakfast and go swimming and
see the amenities. Yeah, I think that with us, we wanted to be able to kind of split it where you still had the feel of kind of being a tourist, wake up whenever you want and not really have to jump into the actual moving part, and really just be able to kind of just chill.
Yeah, it was nice to be able to get a little bit of respite, especially after the months of packing, the months of moving, the months of emotional turmoil that we had to go through, and and the really, sad and messy goodbyes right before we left. So with all that, it was really kind of nice though to get that breathing room, and that leads into our first 30 days. When we actually moved in, one of the things that I was most concerned with, even though I had heard that a majority of people here speak some English, I was worried we were just going to be lost in translation. But thankfully it was pretty seamless. Even with our landlord, she didn't speak the best English, but she really, made us feel wonderfully comfortable. She brought us a house plant and took us for coffee.
And really gave us recommendations on different parks for Xavi, introduced us to a couple of the other tenants who have kids around his age.
And she even told us which taxi services to take to save, so we're not overpaying. So it was really, extra help that made it so nice. And then our utilities were already set up in the place, right? But going in to take those over, that was actually pretty easy too. And the crazy thing, some of the things that we had to get used to out here is, first of all, utilities are not wildly expensive. We were getting used to a base of what, $600 a month
Yes.
in utilities alone, and that was just for gas and electric.
And then throw on, if you want internet, that was another like $200, just everything adding up, just adding on to it. And coming out here and seeing what utilities were on average, just mind-blowing.
I mean, really, we're paying, I mean, in our current place, right, we're paying, what was it? He said if it's more than $15 a month, we should double
Contact
check to
them,
make sure.
yeah.
$15. I mean, that's just mind-blowing to us. And then with the internet, for everything, we have 4 phone lines, internet, and like our phone lines, internet, and text all in there, and that's less than $200 for everything.
And I literally just got the bill from it. We owe $17.
Yeah. So and then that's another thing too, is paying bills. It's kind of a soft deadline out here. It's you're supposed to pay monthly, but you go in and you can either have it where you do set it up to be paid online with a card through your bank, or you go in and pay cash, which most people do.
Most people do prefer cash, and that was one thing, kind of getting used to the conversions out here. But that was a crazy thing as far as like out here, everything is so relaxed. Bills are a range. Basically, it's due from the start of the month until about like the 20th. You could pay at any time and don't really have to worry about it. Everyone's just kind of like, oh, chill, no problem. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to mention as far as like with the apartment was getting the contract. Back in America, you need 3 months of rent, you need recommendations, and they need to prove like your income. Out here, it was, okay, what place do you want? That one, sign the contract, pay the first month.
Yeah, and a deposit. And first and last month, which is similar. But I mean, at the most part, if you read the contract, it's nothing like the nitty-gritty that you get back in the United States. It's more like, hey, pay every month, and if you don't,
leave.
You're going to forfeit your deposit and you have to leave.
Yeah, that was it.
I mean, really, there's not, you have to give up your firstborn if you want to leave. And I mean, it just seems like people here are much more trusting and friendly, and it's been great, actually. And even us going out and making friends, which is something that I recommend trying to do before you go somewhere, is joining something like an expat group on Facebook, or finding where people from your country congregate, so that you can have a community coming in. And that was something that we were able to pretty quickly find out here. One of the spots we still frequent, which is a local restaurant where they host a different event every night, every week it's the same events, but it's a different event every night, if that makes sense. And so our favorite is karaoke, right?
Yeah, that's our go-to. Every Saturday, we'll go in, have a meal, and then just rock out. And what's fun with that is we take Xavier with us, and no one bats an eye. No one is looking at us weird for having our toddler there in a karaoke restaurant, and he actually sings some songs.
Yeah, and I mean, really, and then if it starts to get late and we're still having a good time, it's perfectly okay for him to sleep there. And nobody is upset, and nobody's looking at us funny. I mean, we're just able to be parents that want a little respite. And that's another thing out here too, is that everybody really allows for kids to be kids. And that's something that, we've had to let loose a little bit on, because we're so used to keeping, such a short tether on our son to make sure that he's not doing anything unsafe, going around anybody who may be a threat, or disrupting people's lives, which is something that it felt like, kids aren't allowed to be kids back home. And
you just got judged if your kid was being loud, or if someone saw them coming, and we would get a lot of compliments of like, oh, he's so good because he's not running and screaming. But out here, there not only are kids allowed to really play and have fun, there's a lot of dedicated space for kids. In most restaurants, there's a playground that's connected to it, so the family can eat and the kid can go and play and get some energy out.
Yeah, or if the kid is being, rambunctious, they're not looking at you like get your kid. They're more so smiling at the kid being a kid, and which is so foreign to me. I'm just like, oh no, he's gonna get yelled at, and oh, we gotta move him, and I still have these high expectations of him that aren't being enforced so much here. So
he doesn't need to know long division just yet.
I mean, we're working on it. Don't get me wrong. Calculus is next month, but
but he is reading at an 8th grade level, so I think he's hitting his milestones
for sure. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, it's all of these things that have contributed to our move or understanding of the world that we had to go through and experience ourselves that led to us founding our company, because we wanted to make it so you're not only prepared but successful in making that move, and whatever that looks like for you, we can guide you to do that. And so if you want a less guided approach and you wanted to kind of take your time and look, we always offer our guides. I have 2 forms of guides, one that lays out everything and more in a 90-page guide on moving abroad that also offers a ton of resources. But then I also have another guide on, let's say you wanted to start a new venture, to be able to give you the flexibility to move abroad like we did. I have a guide that helps you to do that as well. And not only that, but if you guys are a little bit further down in making the move, book an appointment with us. You can do so on elsewhere-co.com and set up a free 20-minute consultation.
Please do. We're always here to talk you through the process, see kind of where you're at. And even if it's just, I'm thinking about moving abroad, I don't know what that looks like, we offer all levels of help, whether it comes down to just us finding the professionals for you, or if you want us to take care of everything so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, so with that being said, I think it's time to move on. We're going to do a fun little game where we're going to pull in our intern here to help us out. So just a quick moment. We'll be right back. All right, so now we're back. We're ready for our game. So before we do that, let me introduce you to who's going to be our phantom voice, our intern executive assistant here. His name is Hadi. Say hello, Hadi.
Hi.
All right, so why don't you explain to us what we're going to be doing today?
Now we're going to play a little game with the host and also with the audience. But for the host, we have 4 questions to guess the country and 3 for the audience.
Yeah, and so for those of you who are listening and would like to play at home, go ahead and drop the answers in the comments. First to get the 3 correct will be shouted out at the top of our next episode. And when it comes to the winner here between the 2 of us, we get lifelong bragging rights, right?
I'm really going to enjoy those lifelong bragging rights.
Yeah, you're going down. All right, Hadi, so why don't you start us off with our first question?
Okay, the first question is, which country has the happiest people? A, Denmark, B, Finland, C, Switzerland, D, Norway.
Ooh.
They're all cold.
Yeah, I think you got to be on ice to be happy, right? So I'm going to go with Finland.
I'm going to go with Switzerland.
Switzerland. All right.
It is Finland.
Woo! I got one. You're going down.
Okay, the second question is, which country has the most people who are over 100 years old? A, United States, B, Japan, C, Italy, and D, France.
I'm going to say Japan.
I
don't feel like it's the
Japan,
United
too.
States.
Okay, I'll switch it up then. I'll say Italy, because all that wine.
That's true. So, okay. I'm going to go with Japan.
It is Japan.
Yeah.
What if it's high? I gave
Yeah, hey, you got to get this next one or else I automatically win. It's only 4 questions.
Okay, the third question is, which country has the most American expats currently? A, Mexico, B, Canada, C, United Kingdom, or D, Germany?
I'm gonna have to say Mexico, right? We were gonna leave to a warm climate, kind of, lax life, but not too far from the United States.
I'm gonna go Canada.
Yeah, so that people could live longer because they're on ice.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
It's Mexico.
Yeah! Lifelong bragging rights. All right. This last question now is just for you to not have a total sweep.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, the fourth question is, which country has the highest overall satisfaction with its people? A, Netherlands, B, Finland, C, New Zealand, D, Iceland.
Ooh. I'm gonna say New Zealand because I know during COVID they had 0 deaths. So the people got to be pretty happy there, right?
I'm gonna agree with that one.
Yeah. New Zealand.
It's B, Finland. Yes.
Ah, yeah. Well, I mean, we should have guessed with the happiest people. It's kind of a giveaway, huh? All right. So I win. Bow down to your king. All right, Heidi. So what are the questions for our audience to play
For the
along?
audience,
You guys get ready because the first to answer these questions will get the shout out to answer them correctly. So go ahead.
Sounds ready.
Yeah. or keep all the fingers if you're typing it out.
Okay. The first question for the audience is, which country drinks the most coffee per person? A, United States, B, Finland, C, Italy, D, Canada.
Ooh.
That's it.
Yeah, put your guesses down. Would you like to take a shot at it? You won't get the answers until next week for sure, but
I'm leaning towards Italy.
I was gonna say Italy. Yeah, we'll go with Italy on ours, but obviously you're not gonna give us the answers just yet. So what's the next one?
Okay, and the next one is, which country visits the most other countries, like traveling to other countries? A, Germany, B, United States, C, United Kingdom, and D, France. So,
Ooh. I feel like the United States.
I feel like the United States probably people leave the most.
I mean, they're visiting though, right? Anyway, put your answer down. Let's see. We'll find out next week, right?
Let's see if I have a sweep of losing.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last question.
the third question is, which country has the highest life expansions? A, Switzerland, B, Japan, C, Singapore, and D, Australia.
Did you mean life expectancy?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like it'd have to be. I mean, who knows? But I feel like it'd have to be Japan, right? Because
We're living over the 100.
right, they have the most people over 100. But then, I don't know. That's interesting.
I think Japan. Watch Switzerland comes in for a sweep.
Yeah. But all right, so that's our game. Thank you guys for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you next week, where we're gonna try to talk a little bit more about, some of the things we didn't expect coming in and really dive into our living abroad.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you guys again. And once again, this is New Country, Same Us. Bye.